Today, this document is coming out. It's come out now. You can get it online. You can see how we've got on. So let's go through those 4 problems that I identified. Problem number 1, Britain being a proud independent country, not wanting to be in a superstate. Well, for the first time ever, we've got now a specific carve-out that says, while the other European countries might want to have an ever closer union, that is not the path we are pursuing. We are carved out of ever closer union in terms of the future. It even says very clearly, we don't all have to aim for the same destination. We are there for trade, we're there for cooperation, we're there to work together on the things that can make us more secure. We're there to work on things when there are problems like crime or environment, pollution that crosses borders. But we are not part of an ever closer union. And we didn't just get that, we got something else. I said I wanted the national parliaments, our parliament, to be able to work with other national parliaments to block measures they didn't like. That if Brussels comes up with some crazy scheme, we can get hold of other parliaments with ours, work together, and put a red light up and say, no, it doesn't go any further. People told me I wouldn't get that. It's there in black and white in the document. I also said we wanted something else. For years, Brussels has talked about this idea that power should be flowing from Brussels back to the member states rather than the other way around. They have a fancy word for it. It's called subsidiarity. No one knows what it means, so I promise not to use it again. But it's a very simple idea. Europe should look at what its powers are, and if it's not using them, it should give them back to nation states. That, again, is in the document. That is going to happen, and there's going to be an annual discussion about powers they're not using that should come back to Britain. So that's the first issue, the sovereignty issue that we were fussed about. I think pretty good measures in this document. Now, let me be clear. This is not finished yet. We've still got to negotiate. We've still got to fill in all the details. We've got to get everyone else to agree. But those proposals on that first area, I think, are pretty strong. The second area, making sure Europe is competitive, making sure we're helping our businesses, not holding them back. How have we done there? Well, I said what I wanted was for Europe to hardwire into its DNA, into its very makeup, the idea of being more competitive, of signing trade deals with the fastest growing countries in the world, of not being a fortress Europe, but getting out there and helping business. How have we done on that one? Well, there's a separate declaration about competitiveness with all the ideas that Britain has been pushing contained within it, saying we've got to complete these single markets in Europe, in digital services, in services like legal services and others, in energy. That's all there. And there's something else as well, which is for the first time, we're going to have targets to cut, not to increase, but to cut Brussels bureaucracy in the key areas, and they will be returned to year after year after year. So I think in terms of making Europe more competitive, that second key demand that we had in Britain, I think we've made good progress. Third area, this issue of the euro, and Britain wanting to keep the pound. Let me be absolutely clear. We want the euro to succeed. The Eurozone countries are our biggest market. We want them to sort out economic problems. We want their economies to grow. We want to be able to trade and sell to them at the same time as keeping our own currency. Now, the issue here is just making sure there's fairness, making sure that Europe recognizes that you can have more than one currency in the European Union. And for the first time in these documents, that is properly recognized. But more important than that, there's a set of principles that the European Union will have to stick to. And it says that when it comes to having another currency, like the pound sterling, there's no discrimination, no disadvantage, no chance of us being asked to pay for Eurozone projects. And if people think this is somehow a fiction I've conjured up, last summer, the Eurozone countries got together and tried to use British money to help bail out Greece. Now, we managed to stop it through some very hard diplomacy. But if this document that's been published today becomes the law of the European Union, that can never happen again. So these principles, no discrimination, no disadvantage, no costs for non-Euro countries to pay towards the euro, are very important. And added to that, there's a mechanism. So if we're not happy with what's happening, we can pull a brake, the issues get discussed properly, and Britain's concerns as a country outside the Eurozone will be properly taken on board. So I don't think we've done badly in that third vital area where we need change. What about the fourth one? This issue of migration and the pressure that's been put on Britain's public services, health, education, housing. I think a real concern. It was at the election. You felt it on every doorstep, on every street. People want us to fix this issue. They don't want no immigration. They want balanced immigration, and that's what I want. Now, of course, we've got to take more action from outside the European Union, and we will. But inside the European Union, we do need to take action. Now, what I said we needed to do was to address the fact that our welfare system is something of a draw for people coming to work in the United Kingdom. That up to now, we've given instant access to our in-work welfare system to people who want to come here and work and make a contribution. So what have we got in this document? What we've got is basically something I asked for, which is that people shouldn't be able to come here and get instant access to our in-work welfare system. We should end something for nothing. What is proposed is an emergency break that means that we don't have to pay full rates of welfare for 4 years in the United Kingdom. Now, I was told I would never get a 4-year proposal, and yet that is what is in the document, that we don't have to pay welfare in full for 4 years, and that the European Commission has said, as far as they're concerned, Britain qualifies for this emergency break right now. So I think that is a very big change, something we were told we wouldn't be able to achieve, it wasn't possible, but there it is in the document. That is not the only thing. I also said that I don't think it's right if people come and work here from another country in Europe, but they leave their families at home, that we should pay British rates of child benefit to their families that might be staying in a much lower cost country. And so in this document is the proposal that if someone comes from another country in Europe, then they get the child benefit paid at the local rate, not at our very generous British rate. Now, at the election, what I said was I thought there were 4 things in this welfare area that needed to be sorted out. Very simple, very straightforward, and I think everyone will understand. I said, first thing, if you come to Britain looking for work, you don't get paid unemployment benefit. You come because you're going to get a job. If you haven't got a job after 6 months, you have to return to the country you came from. If you come and you work, you get the child benefit, but paid at local rates. And fourth, you don't get instant access to our welfare system. It takes 4 years before you do. Now, if you look at those 4 things, the first we've already done. You don't get that unemployment benefit instantly. The second, if you don't have a job after 6 months, you have to go home. The third, yes, there will be child benefit, but only at your local rate, not at our national rate. And fourth, there is a 4-year waiting period before you get full in-work British benefits. So I think that is a very strong and powerful package. As I've said, none of this is agreed yet. None of the detail is fixed. There's more work to be done. This European Council doesn't meet and discuss and debate all this for a couple of weeks. But I think we have secured some very important changes which go directly to the issues that we raised as a member of the European Union. One last thing on this immigration and welfare basket, as I've called it, and that is, for too long, we've allowed sham marriages to take place. We've allowed people who come to our country who turn out to be criminals to stay in our country. We've allowed people to get married or use the system to get around our immigration controls. And in this document is a very clear set of measures to put a stop to all of those processes. So I think if you take those 4 areas, is Britain a proud independent country, not part of a superstate? Yes. Are we going to be in a more competitive Europe that helps us create jobs? Yes. Are we dealing with this potential unfairness between Eurozone countries and non-Eurozone countries? Yes. And are we taking the pressure off our immigration system through these welfare changes? Yes, I think we are. Now, as I've said, this is not a done deal yet. There's a lot more work to be done over these next couple of weeks. But I think strong, determined, patient negotiation has achieved a good outcome for Britain.